All right, so it's November 1st, and still got some green plants, but most things in the garden and out in nature have begun to wither away for the year, so to speak. But what we're actually going to do is we're going to do a little chit-chat and conversation on why we plant in the fall as opposed to the spring or summer or any other time of year. And rhododendron's gone dormant. Lobelia's dying off above ground here. But you can see those winter basil rosettes, which are just coming out now and will stay out all winter, are emerging. But I digress. Yeah, blueberries just starting to throw some color now. Beautiful red color. Already get those buds coming in for next season. This guy was like a late straggler, so I think that there'll be some die off there, but it'll be fine. This thing grew this entire stalk all this year, so blueberries been much happier located here than where it was in the past. But we're gonna pick a couple plants out, throw them in the ground here, throw them in the ground in the garden on the other side, and in between that I'll give you a little brief explanation on why it is we plant in the fall as opposed to any other time of the year. Why this specifically is one of the better times to start. Obviously, that doesn't apply to annuals, which you have to start in the spring, but certainly for perennials, especially woody perennials, which I actually don't really have any of to plant, but the woody perennials, especially anything that's got a lot of above ground tissue that it really can't afford to lose, you're going to want to plant in the fall. So let's pick a couple plants out. Let's see what we're going to put over here. Let's see what we're going to go put over the other side. Get a nice little fire going. It's beautiful November 1st day, and well, November 1st afternoon, hence kind of the darkness. And I'll give you a little explanation here. Okay, so for back here, I went ahead and I picked two Eurybia divaricata plants, super shade tolerant aster. Comes in early in the spring as a nice ground cover, and then I still have some of them blooming on the other side there. Blooms pretty late into fall. I'm also going to do a clematis virginiana, which is a vine. We're going to put that along the fence there so it can hopefully trellis up the thing. Again, going to give us some nice fall color. Dolingaria umbellata. I'm going to try this one right adjacent to the lobelia because it likes part shade, not full shade. And we'll see how it does over here. I'm going to put one of these over in on the other side. And as you can see, this bed, I weeded it, a few weeks ago, and nothing's really come back. But I'll show you what we've got going on the other bed there, and some of the prep we're going to have to do for that. And then I'll kind of map out where I want things to go. Because again, we've got, podophyllum there. I'll probably do a Eurybia right there, and a Eurybia right here. Eurybia divaricata and actually Astrum canadense Canadian ginger grow together somewhat frequently, so it'll be interesting to see how those pair together. And like I said, the clematis will be back along the fence here. Put it in the soil probably right about there, and the Dolingaria to the left of the lobelia here. Let's go see the other garden. I'll probably put a Dolingaria in this garden too up front, because this not many things I planted there really made it. So maybe we don't have to do it today, but at some point we might put one in over there in the front garden as well. And then over here on this side, I'm going to put in two pycnanthemum that are still sending out new growth even now. This is another Symphyotrichum nova anglii. This is that Monarda officiosa. This is a long shot. This is Verbena hastata that I've always just had trouble growing, but those roots are still alive. So I'm hoping if I can just get it in the ground and get it protected, it's got knocked over by a squirrel, it'll come back. But again, I've tried 3 different times getting these to take, and they never seem to. And then we get another Dolingaria umbellata, which I'll probably put, right about there. It'll be good. Nice shady spot in front of the milkweed, and then on the sunnier side, next to some Comptonia and some of this Baptisia, we can put a licorice goldenrod Solidago odorata to complement the Solidago canadensis. And one thing I got to do in this garden before I put anything down is just clear a lot of this out. And you can see this Baptisia, I didn't think he was going to make it, but it's still hanging on. And the other one here too, just all of it got kind of taken over by this what do you call it, Strophostytes helvola, which grew, you know, very, very robustly. So I'm going to clear a bit of this out, make a nice little spot for us to kind of put our plantings in, and we'll kind of fly by wire on this one. I think I'm going to do a pycnanthum here, and maybe right about there in front of the Verbicina, which is slumped over. We can get a New England aster in someplace over here. And then the Monarda, you know, plant dense. It's good to plant dense because it keeps weeds from coming up underneath. And I mean, all of these, with maybe the exception of the pycnanthum, are pretty short and stout plants. But I mean, even just in the little pot, these still got over 1.5 feet tall. Great plant. Highly recommend doing pycnanthum. They even flowered a little bit this year. None of these ones I've got in my hand though, but just a really beautiful one to have around. And then, you know, the verbena, we'll see if we can get that thing to come back. I think it needed more sun. And yeah, we'll get these in the ground. I'll show you what they look like when they're in the ground. We'll get them staked and marked, and then I'll tell you what comes next, because I'm going to have to chop this up into 2 parts. I've got something that I'm going to order, and I'm going to show you what to do with the potted plants that you don't get in the ground, because you can't just leave them, you know, out exposed to the elements all winter, at least not in small little tech pots like this. If you have them in a nice, you know, heat retaining, robust pot, they'll be fine. But we'll cut this into 2, and when that arrives, I'll show you what I'm doing with those plants that I did not get into the ground. So stay tuned. So I kind of get everything thrown in wantonly here. I dig the holes, throw the plants in there just so I can go fast. Still gonna rip out the this is volunteer milkweed. Still gonna rip this guy out. Malva neglecta. It's a cool plant, but sadly it has a tendency to take over. At least, you know, especially in like a cultivated setting. It's not the worst. Oh god, it's got a nice taproot now. I should have grabbed this a while ago. Oh well, get out what I can. Ugh. Oh, it's got a nice taproot in there, probably intertwined. Yeah, look at that, like a carrot. I think I don't know, maybe this is one of the ones that's edible or something. I don't know. I don't want it, but anyway, grab him now. Get that whole root out. He won't be back. What was I saying? Yeah, we'll leave that milkweed there. I don't really care. So I just throw these in holes, and again, I don't think too much about it. I'm not really curating this garden other than, you know, species. Oh, there's the garden supervisor. Hi, kitty. I don't really curate it besides, you know, what's going in. As far as the aesthetics of like staggering and layering things, well, I trying to replicate what looks, you know, natural, for lack of a better term. So let's throw these in the ground, and then I'll show you how I mark them off. Yeah, looky here. Here's the root system on a pycnanthum, and that's more root than it was soil, bulging out of the planter. I can't recommend, if you're in New England or even just the East Coast of the United States. And I think some of these are native to Eastern Canada too. Certainly, like Ontario, perhaps, whatever. Eastern North America, I cannot recommend pycnanthum as a plant to you enough. I just, at the time that I'm putting these in the ground, the next video is slated to upload tomorrow. It's all about not this species, but the genus in general. This is Pycnanthum muticum. All of them are native to North America, exclusively to North America. The center of diversity is like Western North Carolina or something like that. Get like 6 species, some of them exceptionally common, you know, weedy natives, some of them quite rare and fascinating, but really, really good plant to have around for its, you know, uses for you as a person. You can use it as a seasoning. It looks beautiful. It's a really pretty plant, especially when it flowers. Beautiful little pink and purple mint looking flowers on there. Smells divine, and it attracts like a crap ton of pollinators to it. So can't recommend pycnanthum enough, and it grows super easy. This grew the best of, this is 1 year's worth of growth. Some of them even flowered. I think I already mentioned that before, but highly recommend pycnanthum. But this is what we're interested in. We could cut all of this off and just throw this in the ground at this point of the year, and the thing would come back no problem next year. So let's get this guy in the ground. All right, so that's everything in the ground, and I'll show you how I'm planning to mark these. I've not done this in the past, but this is my plan going forward, so I'll show you that right now. Well, I thought I had a whole bag of white marking flags, which had you know, just a little metal flag you stick in the ground it's white, you can write on it, but like, they disappeared. So what I'm doing instead is I'm just taking the labels I mentioned before, wrapping them around these little skewers, and that'll get the job done. And really, you don't have to mark off your plants like this. I just do it because it helps me keep track of everything. And say, you know, hypothetically, you know, you're newer to this and you don't keep track of what you plant, or you plant a lot of stuff in one season, it's good to keep track of what's what. Half the questions you see in like plant ID subreddits are, is this what I planted? And it's just funny. So we'll do that. I'll get the job done. And then, you know, some of them, some of these I got from nurseries. I still have the tags. This one's completely dissolved, but I just staved it through. And where did I actually put the, you know, I'm going to ask her. Oh, he's right here. So this helps you keep track of what's what. Some people use these too, but I mean, I hate the idea of putting more plastic into the ground. I got those from a nursery. Some of them are little cardboard tags like that, you know. Just helps you keep track of what's what. After a few years, when everything grows in and you're not as concerned with, you know, keeping track of, this is going to be a second year garden next year. By next fall, I'll be less concerned about it. I probably won't be planting much more in here unless I'm just filling them with grasses. But yeah, just that'll save you the hassle of having to remember on the spot what you planted, where you planted it, if that's even a concern of yours, which it may not be. So we'll get these staved in the ground and we'll have our plantings done over here for this season. And it's getting dark, so I'll just hurry through the other garden, and the last cut here would just be what it looks like as I kind of put the garden to bed for the year. And yeah, I'll do a jump cut and I'll show you what I'm going to do with the rest of my potted plants when that little I get a little winter trellis coming in, and I'll basically show you what that looks like and why you should use that. But fall planting's the best time to plant. Second best time to plant is like early spring, like end of March. If you're talking about getting, you know, established plants into the ground, obviously that's the time of year you're going to be planting from seed and starting plants, but putting them in the ground the same year that they germinate is not necessarily always the best option, because these plants with their established root balls are going to come in very vigorously in the spring, and you really risk a lot of die-off if you just throw them into the ground when they've just sprouted. So let's mark off some plants. We'll do one last shot of the garden and we'll call it a day. All right, and we're going to put some water down, not because the plants need to be watered, but because it helps tamp the soil down. So that's the last step there. And yeah, we'll check back in. It's getting dark, so I'll show you the other garden in its complete state when I show you the little winter trellis system that I'm going to try out. In any case, well, that'll be a week or probably a couple weeks for me, but it'll be the next shot for you. So I'll see you then. Okay, and this is more or less the last thing I wanted to show you as far as winter prep goes. So obviously, like I was saying in the previous video, you know, the general best thing you can do for your plants is to throw them in the ground. Brief side tangent, check these out. We just tore out, or I should say I just cut down and tore out a bunch of U's. That's Y-E-W, English U, from out front. Gonna put something else in the ground there for them. Get 4 of them out. 1, 2, 3. This is a little one, 4 of them. Got 2 more to go. But over here, what we did, yeah, we took all the plants off of the table, because again, you don't want them elevated in the winter, because you can get wind underneath this, and it'll cool down a little bit more. You want them on the ground, where there's going to be more heat retained, and then as close together as possible. Big ones with a lot of mass on the outside, and smaller ones with not too much mass on the inside. Aquatic plants like the rhododendrons and button bushes and hibiscus here are still in water, because they want, you know, a lot of water before they freeze. It's a general good rule of thumb. Give your plants a nice good watering in before a hard freeze, although it's raining right now, so obviously not a hard freeze. These will freeze and thaw probably a few more times before the real, you know, cold freeze for January, February, you know, really sets in for 2 or 3 months. But yeah, bunch them all together, de-elevate them. You don't want them raised up. You want them protected. I still got them fenced in, you know, from anything trying to knock the pot over or get in there. But you want them generally, if not in the ground, on the ground, where they're, you know, gonna effectively just more mass means more retention of heat. And even though the air, 4 feet off the ground could be, I mean, here realistically, as cold as it probably will get is negative 10, negative 15, unless you get one of those exceptionally cold snaps where it can plunge down to like negative 20, but it's been a few years since we've had that. Well, that'll kill off a lot of things, but close to the ground, it's probably going to stay closer to 10, 20 degrees. Those 10 or 15 degrees can make a huge difference, especially when it comes to the roots of the plant. Up top, it's not really a big deal. That can die back, that can regrow, but killing the roots is bad news. And potted plants, that's what you're really worried about. So we bunched them all together, put them on the ground, fenced them in, and then this cloth I have over it is just a frost cloth. Now this is not going to prevent any of this from freezing. What this is going to do is just basically beat back some of the absolute harshest wind shear, wind chill. And then early in the season, when the stuff is growing in, when it's resumed its growth cycle, it's going to prevent it from getting nipped back by a late frost. Anything helps, even if it keeps the ambient temperature just a couple degrees colder. If we can say the air here is 10 degrees, if that can keep it close to the ground under the cloth, if that can keep it 20 or even 25 degrees, makes a big difference for the plants in terms of just winter, surviving the winter. And some of these don't even have plants in them, like that red pot there. They're just there to provide extra windbreak and keep everything clumped together. So for the same reason, you have to make sure your potted plants are extra watered and taken care of in the summer, because those pots dry out and you get very, very hot. In the winter, they will also technically dry out. The cold and the ice is actually desiccating. It draws the moisture out of the root tissue and into ice crystals, and they get much colder. So general rule of thumb, best practice, that's how I'm treating this stuff that didn't get into the ground this winter. And hopefully next year this patch is 3 times the size and we've got a lot more plants going on. Actually, check that. Hopefully a lot of these are in the ground next year. So anyway, that's what we do in the fall for planting, and then just keeping your plants safe. I gave a whole bunch of these away today to a buddy of mine who's going to throw them in the ground before everything really freezes. We were supposed to dig up some of his plants, but I think that's my bad. I waited way too long. I couldn't find where anything was going into the ground. So we'll get him next year, and he's got some nice mountain mint and some button bush to throw in, and I think it's going to do good because he's got a decent amount of clay, and he's got a bunch of Pycnanthemum virginianum growing. So I gave him some of my Pycnanthemum muticum. In any case, that's all I got. That's my fall planting guide. We're editing some of the new stuff together. I got to finish up the blueberry video, and then I'm going to start on the lady slipper video and the Hawaii videos soon. So stay tuned. Take it easy, folks.